Now, this terrorist war, unclear if Kalibov means protests, that they have launched has caused the first damage to people's businesses, the first damage to people themselves, the first damage to people's livelihoods. It affects people's livelihoods, so establishing security is a serious and fundamental task.
Large-scale protests challenging Iran's clerical leadership entered their third week on Sunday, with demonstrators once again pouring into the streets of Tehran and Mashhad, despite an expanding security crackdown that activists say has already left at least 116 people dead. According to protest monitors, unrest has continued unabated, even as Iranian authorities tighten control over communications, cutting internet access and severely restricting phone services across the country. The growing death toll and the scale of detentions have raised alarm internationally. The US-based human rights activists news agency, Harna, said at least 2,600 people have been arrested since the demonstrations began, warning that the lack of independent reporting inside Iran has made it increasingly difficult to verify conditions on the ground. Rights groups and Iranian dissidents abroad fear the communications blackout could embolden hardline elements within Iran's security forces to escalate violence with little international scrutiny. As protests intensified, tensions between Tehran and Washington also rose sharply. Iran's parliament speaker, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, warned that any U.S. military strike would trigger direct retaliation against Israel and American military and shipping assets across the region.
Especially in the short-term and sudden economic instability, there is ongoing debate that firstly, definitive currency control must be managed within a certain range, and secondly, people's purchasing power is very important and must be preserved. Now, this terrorist war, unclear if Ghalibaf means protests, that they have launched has caused the first damage to people's businesses, the first damage to people themselves, the first damage to people's livelihoods. It affects people's livelihoods, so establishing security is a serious and fundamental task. It is the right of people to be able to plan for their livelihoods and businesses.
U.S. President Donald Trump has repeatedly warned Iran against using force on peaceful demonstrators, while offering vocal support to protesters. In a social media post, Trump said Iran was moving toward freedom and added that the United States was prepared to help. The New York Times and the Wall Street Journal, citing anonymous U.S. officials, reported that Trump has been briefed on military options against Iran, though no final decision has been made. The U.S. State Department reinforced the warning, saying Tehran should not doubt Trump's willingness to act. Despite the blackout, videos believed to have been transmitted using satellite technology showed crowds gathering in Tehran's Punak neighborhood, with demonstrators waving phone lights, blocking roads, and setting off fireworks. In Mashhad, footage appeared to show confrontations between protesters and security forces, with burning debris used to barricade streets near the Imam Reza shrine, a major religious significance. Smaller demonstrations were also reported in Kerman. State television attempted to counter protest imagery by airing footage of calm streets and pro-government rallies in select cities, though notably excluding Tehran and Mashhad. Meanwhile, Iran's Attorney General warned that protesters and anyone assisting them could be charged as enemies of God, an offense that carries the death penalty. The protests began December 28, initially sparked by the collapse of Iran's currency amid economic pressure from sanctions tied to its nuclear program. They have since evolved into direct calls for an end to Iran's theocratic system, posing one of the most serious challenges to the leadership in years.
The Speaker of Iran's parliament has directly threatened both the United States and Israel over America's warning that it could intervene militarily in the ongoing demonstrations that are shaking the Islamic Republic. Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf made the comments as his fellow lawmakers rushed the floor and shouted "Death to America." This was aired live on Iranian state television and shows just how much Iran is trying to push back as these protests go on. Now, activists say that at least 116 people have been killed so far, and far more than 2,000 have been detained by authorities. Video showed protests in Tehran as well as Mashhad, Iran's second largest city overnight. And it remains unclear just what's going to be the trigger for Trump to get involved militarily. He's continued to make these threats over the last few days as Iran has shut off the internet, shut off telephone lines, and continued to confront protesters. Now, the Iranian threat that Kalibov made also said that Iran would be willing to take preemptive military action as well. But ultimately, any military operation would have to be approved by Iran's supreme leader, the 86-year-old Ayatollah Ali Khamenei.
Times of India videos, your daily dose of India and the world. Global news, different views, and sharp analysis.
Pressure of expectation from your fans, your supporters.
That is often served as a backdrop for several Bollywood.
You're not a brute majority anymore. If you individually take out Tehran.
Making sense of global conflicts. Tracking the new emerging world order.
Strike on Israeli military bases.
A multi-pronged.
To stay out of harm's way as Israel started bombing targets across.
Understanding changing alliances in a polarized world. Tune into TOI videos for all this and more. Click on the bell icon to subscribe and never miss an update.